Hi, welcome to Rolan Underground, where we talk about what's happening in the world above while in my grandparents' basement. I'm your host, riddled with anxiety. Yes. So we're doing yet another video of me, doing some helpful tips because who doesn't like hearing advice from a young person? So I brought out the old director chair, and I wanted to talk about my past mistakes and how I'm grateful for them. Don't get me wrong, I'm still anxious, and I've had nights where I just think about them, but I'm still grateful for them, and I wanted to help any of the aspiring filmmakers out there, one indie boy to the next indie person. And yeah, so here are my credits, and then here are the films that we're going to be talking about that I have made. The basics. You really need to learn the basics. You think it would be basic knowledge, but it's not. For example, I didn't know how to work my camera until I went into college. Why? Because I'm an idiot. That's the truth. I really didn't know there's so many shots in my first couple movies that are just blurry and they're out of focus, and the lighting is terrible. The lighting is garbage. I don't know why I did that to myself, but I did. It'd be essential, especially if you're working indoors. I mean, it doesn't have to be expensive. You can get a lighting kit for $150. That's how much mine was, and it's a 3 setup thing. But also I think something you should do before you buy any equipment is audio, because audio is such an important thing. You have no idea. Music alone is going to elevate your scene more than your camera could ever. It's just the truth. I recommend getting maybe a Tascam and a boom pole or boom mic, just do some investigative research yourself and what best fits your needs. A screenwriting tip actually is give more character to your women characters. I'm guilty of this, trust me. I know the whole they're actually symbols. Well, technically all the characters are just give them a little more personality.
Yeah, sure.
Just a little something. Be like, hey, I don't like peanut butter. Just something.
Well, isn't that nice?
A little bit. You can't just have them be the object of desire for your main sad indie character. Okay? I'm sorry, but it's the truth. Just, representation, dude. Again, I'm guilty of this. Personally, I should have put more character into, the waitress in Atlas Complex. And they weren't supposed to be both women servers. They just ended up being that way, and all of the characters were symbols, so that's why I'm saying I know how you're feeling. But I should have done it. When I was working on The County of the Ugly Dead, Linda's character was supposed to be a little more involved, but it was already a 25-minute movie, and I had to cut some of the stuff, so I was I guess we don't really need this. You do. You really need to just a little line. Just something, Keep it simple with your dialogue. This is an actual screenwriting advice. Whenever you're writing dialogue for your characters, try not to do more than 4 or 5 lines. 5 is pushing it. It really is. I mean, if you really want them to have this long speech, cut it up a little bit, put some action in there, because it's going to start to look like a really white page. And that sounds weird, so let me elaborate a little bit. So when you're writing scripts, the screenwriting format is dialogue is very centered, the margins are in, and then, the names are even more, and there's a lot of white negative space on the sides. If there's a lot of dialogue, it's a very dialogue heavy scene or page or whatever, it's very white because of that white space. And when there's a lot of action, that fills up all of the lines, and that means it's too black. Sometimes it's good not to have dialogue. The only redeeming quality I have for Fear and Loathing of Pale Horse is that I didn't speak a lot. There's not a lot of speaking in there. I think for the first 5 minutes, except for the first scene, it's very quiet. That's definitely not the right time. You know what I mean. It's very quiet, and you just let the action speak for itself. It might have been too black, but it's always better to be black than white. Ooh, let's move on. Stop doing diners. Oh my gosh, I know we all want to write our scripts in diners, but we gotta stop, okay? Now, again, I'm guilty of this. There's a reason diners are so popular is because it's in a public place, so there's a chance you might meet somebody new, or you might run into somebody you know, and also eating. A lot of people have conversations while they're eating, so of course they want to interpret that in their script, and it's just a perfect time to where they're just sitting down and they're talking. Is at a diner. But let's not. You know, you can always change that. Maybe you can put them in somebody's apartment or at a park or somewhere. Like, if it's essential that they need to be eating, or if they have to be, you know, in a public place, or maybe even like waiting. Waiting was really why I put the Atlas Complex, you know, in a diner.
So, are you still waiting on your friend?
Yeah.
And then the public place thing, if I'm being honest, I probably could have done like the park or something for the problem with remembering. I really want to include a place that was closed and being like, just hinting to the main character like something's off. Pre-plan. For the love of everything, pre-plan. It helps you so much more than you will ever know. And if you think you're not doing enough pre-planning, guess what?
You're right.
And you can do more pre-planning. I'm talking about shot lists, storyboards if you could do them. You know, having pictures of the location. Table reads. Table reads is an amazing thing to do. Just have like a new voice, you know, read out these words because you think it sounds okay in your head, but then once it's actually said out loud, it sounds ridiculous. A lot of times I'll write a scene and then I'll say it out loud and be like, wow, this doesn't sound natural. And then I'll rewrite it. Or you can maybe just do it with a friend, you know, just have the words say out loud. And then I think a table read would definitely help because then you hear how the characters are talking and the actors getting more into the character, and they can point things out to you that you never think of, or you can explain things to your actors so you don't really have to worry about it on the day because they're practicing these lines over and over again with these emotions attached to it. With the problem with remembering, I did a lot of pre-planning. I did storyboards, I did shot lists. I tried to, you know, have the dialogue read out loud. I did all this stuff, and I was still not prepared. I really wasn't. So just pre-plan. This is something I'm very guilty of, and I'm probably shouldn't be proud of it, but I am. But don't push yourself too much. For someone who has written, directed, starred, edited, produced, you know, literally all the jobs for a movie, and also having a cast attached to it and trying to be a good host, it just gets so stressful and it gets so bad, and it's...
Yeah, that's not healthy.
It's not good. You know, you're not being 100% when you're doing that. Okay, you're not doing the best directing you can, you know, and helping the other actors. You're not being the best performance you can get. You know, just pace yourself a little bit. When I was working on the Atlas Complex, I was working, you know, 50 or so hours a week, and I really only had one day off, which was Sunday, where I was allowed to work in the dining room, where it's very obvious it's a Chick-fil-A dining room. I don't know why I couldn't done like a little better job. Oh wait, that's right, because I was the only crew member. There was no other crew members. I think I had a friend or two try to like help, but they were acting in it, so they were focusing on the acting part of it. We would film until I couldn't stand up. That's how bad it was. My face would be green and I couldn't do it. I was not acting in it. Previously, when I did County of the Ugly Dead, I was doing everything. I was the main star and doing all this. And that was a long movie. That was a long time it took, and it was ridiculous. I don't know why I did that to myself. You just have to put trust in the people around you. If you have people around you, luckily, that are trying to help, then use them. For the love of everything, use them. Be nice. You know, do this or that for them. And if they don't know how to do something, then teach them yourself. Just don't stress yourself out like I did, because it was... I'm going bald, okay? That's all I gotta... I have more advice. If you guys want it, please let me know. I'd love to help however I can. You learn anything, or...? No clue. But I will say it was nice going back at my old videos and watching them again, even though I'm early in my career. Like, they're laughably bad, but I just learned so much. And that's what you just gotta remember. You know, with every failure, it's a lesson. What is it? That Thomas Edison jerkwad. He was like, oh, You know, I didn't learn how to make just a light bulb. I also learned how not to make it 99 times. He was the worst. Edison? Ah, my gosh. Look into that guy. It's crazy. He's done so many bad things. He's like possibly responsible for like a couple murders and like disappearances. Look into like the first film ever made.